I go a long way back with Pizza Hut. I do. I'd wager a lot of you could probably say the same. Pizza Hut is one of those establishments, at least here in the United States, that it's just been there for decades. And it's been a staple for many decades. It's practically ubiquitous. It's nearly everywhere. You'd be hard pressed to find an area where there isn't a Pizza Hut, at least within a reasonable vicinity. Even in the most remote corners of Alaska, where there aren't even any sorts of roads or anything, you'll still find a Pizza Hut in the middle of the forest. Just it's there. You'll see it. You can't escape the hut, but that doesn't guarantee that the quality of the hut is something that you would want to be present in the first place. You see, we were talking in the last review about nostalgia, and I think it's a perfectly valid point. It's something that I have a tendency for, and I think, in my opinion, arguably so. You think about Pizza Hut, at least when I think about Pizza Hut, I think back to the good old days. I don't really think about Pizza Hut today, at present, in 2025. I personally think back to some of the good memories that I had, and, the good experiences and the good meals that I had at Pizza Hut, probably 15 plus years ago. Though even as recent as 10 years ago, there was still a Pizza Hut that I would go to that was pretty good. But, you especially have to go back to the 2000s and then before. And that's, I think, when Pizza Hut was really at its peak, right? They had a pretty stable menu. They had the basics, and they had the basics nailed down. And I think a lot of it, and also you think about the old school Pizza Hut signs and decor and all of that stuff, right? I think there is a heavy element of nostalgia that comes down to it. Convenience, yes, but nostalgia as well. And that was what prompted me to get some Pizza Hut delivered the other night. Now, I didn't get this as a review or anything. I didn't get this, for necessarily the camera. So, unfortunately, you're just gonna have to take my word on it. But you're just gonna have to believe me when I say my description. It's even worse than that. Just hear me out. So, I was looking on their menu and I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to get something that I think, despite the fact that the quality I think has been slipping with Pizza Hut, I'm going to get something that I think I know I'll like. And then I was feeling a little adventurous and I had a more ravenous appetite than usual. I thought, you know what, then I'll get something else along with it and it'll be what it is, right? So when I went over and put in the order for the Pizza Hut, I got a pan pizza this time around with some pepperoni. That turned out that was fine. There were no issues with the pan pizza, right? One of the basic items that I think you would expect from Pizza Hut. One of the reasons why people might still go to Pizza Hut. Then I was curious. I saw that they actually had some new releases, and I was thinking, well, maybe one of these days I'll review it, but I was actually kind of curious about this. I thought, I wasn't really feeling in the mood like filming anything, but I thought, I'm still going to get this, just try it out, just off camera for curiosity's sake. I saw, what, they had these Crafted Flatzz, and it's just Pizza Hut's way of essentially trying to establish, hey, we're better than what we used to be. This isn't just your fast food, this is artisan, right? This is artisan pizza. It's Crafted Flatzz with a Z because it's just that good, and it's obviously handcrafted, right? It's restaurant quality from Pizza Hut in 2025, of course. So I decided, you know what? Let me just get one of these Crafted Flatzz. There was like a personal size, supposed to be like a personal flatbread pizza, and there was this one that I got that was supposed to be in Nashville Hot Crispy Chicken flavor, which I thought, this is quite the unique flavor for such an item. But I thought to myself, you know what? A lot of these places, when they do Nashville Hot Chicken, it's either really bad or it's really good. So I'm taking a gamble. But if it's good, this might actually be like a hidden gem right on the menu, even though they just released it. I don't know how many people care about it. I thought, all right, I'm going to get it. So I put in the order for the Nashville Hot Crispy Chicken Handcrafted Flatzz. And what it's supposed to come with is, again, it's like a flatbread pizza, some mozzarella cheese, this pickle flavored ranch that they put on it, some onions, and like I said, then the little bits of the chicken with the Nashville Hot seasoning on it. Sounds interesting, right? $7, but it's Crafted Flatzz. So, get my order, and I'll admit, the first thing I did was I looked in the box that the pan pizza was for, because I will admit, I was far more excited for that, because that's really what, I was thinking about, and I was sort of revisiting a little bit of that nostalgia, so I went right into the pizza, had a slice of that, had a second slice. It was good. And then I decided, all right, let me put that aside for a moment. Let me crack open the box that the Nashville Hot Crispy Chicken Handcrafted Flatzz with a Z was in. There's no other way to say this, and this is the polite version of it. This was one of those moments that, and I say this with no exaggeration, I open up the box, I look down at it, and I said to myself, what the hell is this? I was in complete and total disbelief at what I was seeing here. Like, this is one of those items that is not just that it would taste bad, but it's visibly disgusting. And I looked at this thing, and I thought to myself, what is this? Like, this looks like something that you would find in a dumpster somewhere. Like some sort of just burnt refuse that, is either like just some half-eaten meal, or, it's just been rotting away for a few days, or some utter miserable failure of a horrible cook that is unworthy of consumption by any living organism that was then promptly disposed of. I looked at this thing, and it was grotesque. But it's supposed to be artisanal, right? It's Crafted Flatzz. This is supposed to be, it's not just Pizza Hut anymore. They're better than that, right? They're better than the basics. They're better than every place tries this strategy too. That's the best part. All of these fast food chains, they keep pulling this stuff, and then they wonder why people quit showing up and quit giving them their business. They lose sight, and they lose track, and they lose touch of why people even go to these places in the first place. Not to mention that also the quality of everything gets worse, and it gets more unaffordable, but even they neglect the basics, and then they introduce this trash. And like I said, I'm trying to be polite here. This Nashville Hot, I'm just going to call it the Nashville Hot Crafted Flatzz, was, I'd say, the most unappealing looking item from Pizza Hut I have ever seen. Like I said, it was disgusting looking. It was like, it looked like it had been sitting in the oven for not just 5 minutes too long, or 10, I would say at least 15 or 20 minutes long. It reminds me of this time years and years ago when I remember I used to make frozen pizzas, and there was this one time when I lost track of time. I didn't set the timer right, and I accidentally had the poor thing in the oven, for far longer than it should have been, and wouldn't you know, the thing was burnt to a crisp. That's what this thing looked like, right? The thing looked burnt and blackened, and it wasn't because of the seasoning. The thing was like burnt to a crisp. I understand it's supposed to be flatbread and have a little bit of like a texture to it, but this thing was bone dry. Like any sauce that was supposed to have been on this initially, or any cheese or onions or any of that, was like practically evaporated. And then this was the best part, right? Then you had these little chunks of the chicken, which I guess it was burnt to a crisp, so it does stay true to the name that I guess it was crispy chicken, but there were these little circular chunks, and they were just as like brownish black in color, and resembled nothing like chicken. and just resembled like animal droppings, for lack of a better word, on this burnt this burnt husk to begin with, and that just made it even worse. And then the best part was that aside from that, they dumped, I guess it was supposed to be like the pickle flavored ranch on it, and they just like hastily just squirted it on, with no rhyme or reason. It was like collected in almost like a puddle in the middle. It almost reminded me of just like this pool of like pus or something. And the best part was that it was cold. It was cold to the touch, while the rest of it was still pretty hot temperature wise. So it couldn't have been more unappealing in terms of appearance and everything. And this is one of these things that was like, I was in disbelief at what I was looking at. I thought to myself, the gall that they would actually call something like this, artisanal, and that this is some sort of artisan, premium $7 personal pizza, some specialty flatbread pizza, and then this is what they actually have the audacity to serve up. That someone could actually serve this up proudly, I would assume, is insane to me. And then, of course, I was grossed out by it. It was already starting. This thing looked it was horrible in appearance. Like I said, one of the most visually unappealing things I've ever seen. And I was losing my appetite. I was still pretty hungry. I thought, I'm just going to close the box. I don't even want to look at this thing anymore. Had another slice of the pan pizza, which was already getting less enjoyable because now I was thinking about those stupid pieces of chicken and like how I'm not going to go there anymore. I was trying to get that image out of my mind and I was not succeeding. I finally said, you know what? Quit trying to judge a book by its cover. Maybe it's going to taste better. So I took a bite and I was not proven wrong. It was my initial judgment was correct. I took a bite and it tasted just as bad as it looked. Completely burnt to a crisp. The chicken was completely dry on the inside. There was barely anything left. Like I said, it was just this burnt, dried out shell. The pickle flavored ranch was just like, it was like waterlogged, and it was like soup. It was like soupy almost. And then there was this copious amount of this Nashville hot seasoning that left a spicy aftertaste. And like I said, I didn't have the presence of mind because I know it might seem silly. You might think, oh, but Review Bra, you sit here and you do these reviews and all of that, so how could you not film it? But you have to understand that, I still do function and exist outside of the realm of YouTube land. And, this is just one of those instances where I was mostly just focused on the meal and I was just in personal disbelief over it, as opposed to thinking, let me grab the camera and the lighting and everything. I was just thinking to myself, I was just in such a level of disbelief over what I had gotten. I wasn't even thinking about filming it at the time. I was just thinking, this is so vile, this is so disgusting, and not really how could they, because it's like one of those things. I asked myself that question, and I thought, well, yeah, of course, it's Pizza Hut these days, so of course they could proudly send this slop out and deliver it up. But all I will say is, from my personal experience, even though this is an unofficial review, they might try to market it as being of higher quality. They might market it as trying to be a bit better than what they normally serve up. But believe me when I say it, this is amongst some of the most vile, disgusting food I've ever come across. And if I have the displeasure of being caught on a metaphorical rainy day with nothing else to do, maybe I'll get this again just for laughs, just so, because I highly doubt if I get it again it's going to be much better than you could see it with your own eyes. But it's sad. It's sad when you get these establishments like Pizza Hut, and there's so many others, so many countless others, pretty much every big chain these days that, is in decline, used to be better a while back, and you still have that nostalgic aspect, and then time and again they keep ditching the core elements, of why people ever even went there in the first place, and they try to be something that they're not, and it fails miserably. Pizza Hut's just an example that crossed my mind, but I've seen this so many times again, where you have these places that either try to be more upscale or more artisanal again, or try to be trendy or whatever. And you see it time and time again, and what does it do? It always fails. The quality usually goes down. They lose sight and lose touch of why people even liked these places in the first place. Instead of trying to regain some of that former glory, going back to the roots, back to their basics, and no, they instead they just go all in on a failed strategy. So Pizza Hut's the latest example of it. There's many more. I've seen this for years and years now. Will they ever learn? Probably not, but just some random thoughts I wanted to share. Pizza Hut's the Crafted Flatzz. Don't let the name deceive you. It might have a Z with it, but avoid it. Stick to the basics if you want to go with Pizza Hut, but boy, that Crafted Flat was vile in every conceivable way. Thank you.